excited to be a senior parent? Who is so nervous to be a senior parent? We got you. We're here for you. I'm just going to let two important folks make some quick announcements before we start.
Hi, my name is Christian. Soy el interpretador de español. Si necesitan asistencia, hay audífonos allá atrás si lo necesitan.
Hi, my name is Denise. I'm here to do the Mandarin interpretation. 我今天在这里是希望提供国语翻译，因为有一些仪器上的障碍，所以您需要国语翻译的话，我在后面。今天的讲座会有录音，我们希望能够安排一些，也许之后录音完之后的翻译，有需要请找我在后面，谢谢。
Thank you. And for those of you who didn't understand, they said, get ready, hold on to your seats, because you're in for a big surprise tonight. We got a lot of information for you. Actually, I don't know what they said. They said that they were going to translate in Spanish, and we were hoping to translate in Mandarin, but we ran into some equipment malfunctions. The good news tonight, one of the good pieces of news, is that we're going to record the night. So this year we're going to start something new. We're going to record the guidance parent nights, and we want to, be really accessible to everyone. And so our hope is that if we record it and we upload it to Paly.net, that those of you who can't make it, you can go onto Paly.net and you can pop some popcorn and sit down and watch us from home, the day after if you'd like. For our Mandarin speakers, what our plan B is, so we essentially have a backup plan. Our backup plan is to take the recording from tonight and have her translate it and put some subtitles or record over, and that's how we'll do the recording for our Mandarin-speaking families. So, good evening. My name is Vicki Kim. I am the Assistant Principal of Student Services. I have the lovely privilege of working with our awesome guidance team, our wellness team, our mental health team. I work with the best folks on earth, the hardest working people, and I'm so fortunate every day to come to work and work with such an awesome staff, and also in such a great community. This is my 5th year at Paly, and so I feel right at home, a little bit more comfortable than my first year, but still learning a lot. So for those of you who put up your hands for when you were really nervous, said you were really nervous to be a senior parent, I hear you, because there is a lot of information. I grew up in Canada, and so I wasn't educated in the American system until my master's program, and so it was a huge learning curve for me as well as an educator to come here, because I didn't go through the college application process as our students do here. So there is so much information to learn. The great news is that we have really experienced and knowledgeable folks here to tell you all about it. So tonight, we're going to talk to you about what it's like to be a senior. We're going to talk to you about wellness. We're going to talk to you about guidance. We're going to talk to you about the college application process and all of that good stuff. And as I said before, we're going to record the presentation. We're going to have it online so that if you forget something, you can go back to it. And as always, we also will have the slide presentation for you on Paly.net. So we have some important folks here. We have our student activities director, we have our wellness center coordinator, and our guidance folks, Charles Taylor, Ann Degelman, Stephanie Mendoza, Kristen Laguna, and Sandra Trinabori. And they're all here to inform you of everything you need to know this year. Before we start, we always love to thank the folks who make these nights possible. We really couldn't do this work without our awesome support groups. Thank you to Pi. Pi really helps our guidance staff and department be who we are. In fact, half of them wouldn't be here if we didn't have the support of Pi, so we're always very thankful to our partners in education. They also contribute significantly to the array of CTE courses that we can offer to our students. And so as you most likely know, if you have been here for 4 years, student voice and choice is very important here at Paly, and they certainly do get a vast array of choices in their course selections, and that is something we're so thankful to have. Our PTSA, they continue to support the College and Career Center. They really fund the continuing education piece for our college advisors. We want our college advisors to always be on top of the current news and the current processes and the trends in education, and they are really informed in the information that they receive. And so we do like to send them to conferences and so that they can stay abreast of all of that information. So we thank PTSA for helping to support that effort, as well as other efforts like Career Day and the PSAT that probably all of your students took last year as juniors. That's a good way to practice for the SAT. And last but not least, I gotta put in a plug for our Rise Together Education. This is a nonprofit organization that one of our own staff members founded. It was after realizing how many gaps there are in our systems. In the financial aid piece, there were a lot of gaps in terms of not just the amount of financial aid that students received, but also in terms of timing. Some students were required to make a deposit before they ever received any money, for financial aid. And so there were a lot of gaps in the system, and we realized that, the hard work of some of our students was in a really precarious situation because they couldn't actually afford to go to school despite having gotten into the school. And so one of our staff members, Laura Burka, founded this organization. And since 2016, since the original 20 students who received support from Rise Together Education, we have certainly grown in that number and raised money to support more students in terms of financial support and also mentors. What we do is we pair a student up with a mentor, a staff member or community mentor, and that mentor, if needed, will stay with the student for all 4 years of college, because it might not just be the first year that the student needs a mentor and help with the facilitation of going to college. And so it's a really awesome program, and to learn more about the program, the website is right there, risetogethered.org, and you can find out more and help support our fabulous students. All right, so without further ado, are you excited? Did you bring your juggling stuff? Mr. Matt Hall is our Student Activities Director, and he is also a world-class, for real, juggler. And he's amazing. And you have to pay lots of money to see him, but sometimes he does free shows for us. For free. Here's Mr. Matt Hall.
Good evening. So, short and sweet, the Holy Trinity, so to speak. The big ones. I mean, I could include Spirit Week, of course. ASB is 43 days away and counting from your final Spirit Week. We are deep in preparations. Club Day is next Friday. Club applications are due tomorrow. So those are good things, those are big things. But these, I think, will hold your attention. Those dates are confirmed, those times are confirmed. One note, the location of prom has not been announced, of course. It will be announced in January at our annual staff student basketball game, winter rally. We will be going back to basketball from soccer, because now we have this place called Peary Center so we can play basketball again. Baccalaureate, the one update I received, I was working with them just the other day. Their parking structure has been remodeled and been retooled for earthquake suitability. So we'll have parking right next to the venue. That parking will cost $10. Start saving now. And then last but not least, graduation. The big change here, of course, is not Wednesday, but Thursday. So everything kind of shifts in terms of finals and so forth. Please take note that the 8th grade promotional ceremonies have also been shifted, I believe, to Friday. So there will be no conflict as far as that is concerned. Guns graduation, my wife is a student activities director at Gun, so there's collaboration. But their ceremony, Gun's ceremony, I believe starts at 5 this year. We will start at 5:30. So anybody here have students at both schools, graduating from both schools? So if you want to talk to me afterwards, if you're worried about making both ceremonies or trying to figure it out, we've done that in the past. We've made it work for families that have that issue. So, short and sweet, I won't waste any more of your time. I will be here at the end of the presentation, so if you have specific questions about caps and gowns and things like that, always watch Paly.net. Always check your email. We send Infinite Campus emails to the email that's registered for you in our database, for what you put in our Infinite Campus database for the school and for the district. And of course, it doesn't hurt to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Feel free, just do a search for Paly ASB. All of the information that I put out to you will be reduplicated in those various social media sources. Otherwise, thank you for your patience, and I'm going to move on to Miss Elizabeth.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Spector. I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor and the mental health and wellness coordinator here at Paly. So our wellness center is in its second year. So we're in our second year. We're located in the tower building across from the main office. If you were here last year, you probably heard all about the wellness center's inaugural year. So we are a place, I like to call us the hub of all things mental health, emotional health, and physical health. And our nurse's office is located in the Wellness Center. It's a place where students can come if they need to take care of themselves. So if they need to be connected with a counselor, if they want to be connected with ongoing counseling, if they just want to take a break, we have snacks, we have tea, we have coloring books. We have a 15-minute limit, so students shouldn't be coming to the Wellness Center to miss an entire class period unless that's something that's already been worked out with their teacher or in some other specialized plan. But we really want to promote a safe space for students. Additionally, it's technology free, so that means no cell phones, no computers, just time to unplug and disconnect. And then we also have a variety of providers, mental health providers on campus. So part of what we do in the Wellness Center is connect students with our CASI therapists, AKI, which is Asian Americans for Community Involvement. We have a Stanford clinician on campus for half a day, once a week. So part of what we do there is make sure that students are getting those needs met through those other providers. Additionally, we do outreach. So a number of mental health and wellness focused outreach programs have been happening through the Wellness Center. Oops, sorry. So the wellness programs extend beyond just the Wellness Center. It's really our living skills. We have Camp Unity. There's the YES program, which is yoga and meditation. And then we have Sources of Strength, which is a student-led group. And we've really been trying to leverage them this year. And then, as I said, CASI is our new provider. It was formerly ACS, and this year we have counseling and support services for youth. And now I will introduce Senior Guidance Counselor, Mr. Charles Taylor.
All right, welcome everyone. Glad to see everybody. It's been a pleasure working with your students the last 4 years. I've gotten to know some of them pretty well, and it's been a really good experience for me as well. I'm going to review some of the supports you guys have been working with the last 4 years. This will also be the interactive portion of the presentation. I'm just kidding. So, 3-tiered guidance system, you guys tell me, tier 1 is who? Teacher advisor, you guys should know that person pretty well now, primary source of contact for you and your student. Going into senior year, we'll be hosting the advisory classes where they'll talk a lot about some of the stuff they need to do to apply for colleges. So that's going to be mandatory meetings on the Thursdays. Perfect. Tier 2, guidance counselor, myself. So definitely student drop-in throughout the day, appointments with parents meetings with parents by appointment. Senior year, we do a lot of pairing with the advisors, so we'll meet together as the advisors is kind of monitoring your specific student situation, and I can consult and help with them and you guys as well. And the big addition starting second half of junior year, tier 3 is, louder. College and career advisor. So I've worked at a bunch of different schools. We have a great pair that works with your students. They started meeting second half of junior year, so just going through that again. Ms. Trinibori has A through K in the alpha, and then Ms. Mendoza has L through Z. So students should have had a meeting second semester of junior year. If not, they can still schedule a meeting for first half of this year. To do so, they need to make sure they have to complete the Naviance post-high school planning questionnaire and then turn that into the College and Career Center. First meeting is always with the student, and then the follow-ups can include parents and things like that as well. Drop-ins for students, brunch, lunch, for drop-ins. Yeah, so you can come and do that. Perfect. That's about next. Okay, so graduation requirements, usually is when I kind of go through the whole setup. I think right now, senior coming in, everyone should kind of know what they need. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact the advisor. They're helping monitor that as well. Or you can contact myself. Again, we'll be working together to make sure everyone has the requirements they need to be able to graduate from Paly and also be eligible for four-year college, or at least be able to identify their post-secondary placement. So where they're going after high school. Yep, questions, contract teacher advisor. Supports for all students, so we have flex, so that's adjusted a little bit this year. That's a time where they can go and work with a teacher. It's technically twice a week this year if they don't have advisory, so non-advisory Thursdays, they can also still use that as flex time and meet with teachers for support. Peer Tutoring Center, that used to be the ARC, so we just changed the name, same service. They can go there and get support as well and get student tutors. Math Homework Club is still present in the MRC, in the math building, Monday through Thursday. There's usually a teacher present, or there'll be a day that their teacher's assigned where they will stay late. I tell students sometimes just go, get work done. If you have questions, things like that, check in with your teacher, especially if they're in like a higher level or challenging math class. That kind of interaction really helps support progress in the classes. Ways to make up deficiencies. So if they had a difficulty earlier and they're trying to repeat a course, obviously summer school you've offered in the past. If they're trying to do something now during the school year off campus, they'll have to make sure they do the approval form, prior approval form for off-campus corporate courses. That's located in the guidance office. Any questions they can ask Ms. Tonga about the paperwork or check with me as well. And so we're going to have in the second semester an informational evening about transition for high school students with IEPs. That's going to be announced. We started that, I think, 3 years ago, and it's been very successful, so we're going to keep that going. Go ahead. And then more information in Paly Handbook for details is on paly.net. It's not, yeah, it's not much. All right, I think that's it for me. I am going to take next. Is that where you're standing? Stand next to me. Perfect.
And I am one of the co-coordinators of the Teacher Advisor Program. And I know that all of you are really curious about the college application process, especially those of you that don't have a student that came before, your current senior. One of the main things we want to stress is preparation. The kids have really been prepped through this. If they've been attending advisory throughout their time here, we kind of build to it. And at the second semester of junior year, they started talking a lot about what was coming up, how they could prepare. I'm sure many of you probably recognize our Viking guide, which went home with the kids. It has all the nuts and bolts of application process. We also have ongoing help for them. They should be attending advisory all the time, but especially at this important time of the year, because different, we try to keep it really timely according to what our deadlines are going on. There's workshops available during Flex, and then some of the evenings for the different types of applications. So you can watch for that. Those are always on paly.net. There's also college rep visits. We have usually on the 3 or 4 a day, and if your student was in Naviance and put a college that they were interested in, they'll get a reminder. But they can also look on the board outside of the College and Career Center, and it's a good time for them to come and hear the rep from a college they might be interested in. And then we have our college fair that we share with Gunn High School, but this year it's at Paly. It's October 9th, and I think we've got over 100 different colleges that'll be represented there. That's really a good time for your kids to be able to come up and have discussions with some of the reps. So now we're going to talk about some of the nuts and bolts, and one of them is the cover sheet. They can pick this up in the guidance office, and it will also be online. It isn't yet, but it will be. Every student must fill out one of the, if they're doing any post-Paly 2-year, 4-year, any form like that. The thing about this is it really helps keep us all on track. And it also helps your student kind of organize their thoughts. They'll list the colleges and universities they're applying to. They'll say if it's early action, so that'll get them thinking about their deadlines and keeping it all organized. They'll see if they need a TA letter. Most of them were told to ask their teachers at the end of last year for a teacher rec. They've probably already lined that up. College due date. I want to say one thing about the college due date. Please follow the due date. That if you go into Naviance and you pull up the individual college, or you look on the college's individual website, make sure that you only put, or your student only puts, the due date that the college actually publishes. A lot of times we have people trying to kind of game the system. They'll put it 2 or 3 weeks early, thinking that if they put an earlier due date, that things will go out faster. Our TAs are also full-time students, and they really are good about organizing their time. They say that most of their TA letters take on average 3 to 4 hours a piece to write. It's something that they take very seriously and they do very thoughtfully. So they really like to know who's due when and the reality of when they're due. So the cover sheet does that, and also on the Common App will help them with that too. Next. Is it not clicking? Oh, okay. So we've got different types of colleges that our kids aspire to go to or are focusing on attending. So we've got community colleges, we've got UCs, CSUs, we've got privates and publics, and they all have a little bit of a different way to apply. And I know that that sounds confusing, but once your student narrows down their list and knows what their colleges are, they can find out exactly the process that they need to go through. Community colleges, the applications are in the early spring, and there's usually a community college forum, excuse me, in the spring where they can get a lot more information. They take their placement tests in April and May, and there's usually open houses also. They do not need letters of recommendation, and they don't need tests. They're not required. Then we have our CSUs. The application, it opens on October 1st. It hasn't opened yet. We've had several kids come in and say that they were having difficulty with their application. It's because they're still looking at last year's. So it doesn't even open till October 1st. So there's the URL to get to it. They do need test scores. Remember, your student always has to have their test scores sent from the testing company to any of the places to which they're applying. And the deadline for that is November 30th, and they don't take transcripts, or they don't want transcripts. It's all self-reported in the application, and no letters of recommendation. Am I out of it? How do I do that? Okay. Now look up. Okay, now we've got our UCs, and here again, the application, it's already available. It's open. It opened August 1st. They do want test scores again from the testing agency. Deadline is November 30th. No transcripts or letters of recommendation accepted. You will probably all heard last year, and there is, after the application has been submitted, if an individual campus wants a recommendation or information from your student, they will email them so that they can log in and give the name of a recommender who can then upload a letter of rec. But they will not accept them unless they ask for them. So you don't send it. More is not better in this case, only if they request it. The other thing I'm going to say about the November 30th deadline is on both of those, it gets really busy towards the end of the application cycle. Really have your student try to apply earlier. If you wait till the end, a lot of times it overloads their system. It can be really frustrating, especially if it's the 11th hour and they're kind of nervous anyway. So try to get them to do it earlier. Common application colleges, you probably all have heard about the Common App. It was they introduced it to try to make applying easier. Many of the colleges use the same one. It's the same letter of rec, same transcript, everything. It's just replicated to the colleges that your student wants to apply to. They apply online. Some do have individual additional supplements, so you'll have to go on the website to find out about that. And they need to invite and assign their teacher and advisor, who is their counselor in this at Paly. It'll say guidance counselor or school counselor, it's their TA, and their teachers. They'll have to assign them, and that's by the Paly deadline. On the back of the Viking Guide, there are the deadlines, and it says if it's due to your college by this date, please make sure that you have applied to Paly by this date and invited and assigned them. There again, with this, no transcripts have to be ordered online. The teacher advisor will automatically upload the transcript as well as their letter of rec and our school profile along with their part of the application. Now there's non-common app colleges. For some reason, I think this is one of the ones that it confuses the kids the most because it doesn't follow a formula. Some of the schools want additional information, some of them don't want individual information. So what we did was we embedded, and it's next week, it's on the 14th, we embedded an advisory where they will actually sit and start filling out their cover sheets, and they'll talk about applying to the non-college app schools. What that is the teacher advisor letter will go to old-fashioned, it'll go in the mail. So your student will have to turn in a large envelope addressed to the school, stamped, and then there's a NACAP form, which is this one, which they can pick up in the guidance office. So they'll fill in the top part of that, and then if the school has their own secondary school report form, which is, this is like Paly's secondary school report form, the NACAP, and there might also be an additional one that the school has of their own. So they fill out the top portion, and the teacher advisor will fill out the rest of the information. So they will also, so letters of rec, if it's required, some of the out-of-state publics do not accept, they don't want letters of rec, and test scores, there again, they have to have them sent directly from the testing agency. The big difference here is in the transcript. With the Common App, the TA will upload it automatically. In the case of a non-Common App school, your student has to go on to Parchment. You can go to paly.net under the student tab and it'll say transcripts, and it's a company that we employ that will send the transcript automatically after you have ordered it to a particular college. So now so I know that sounds really confusing. Please know that we're all here to help. Not only are the college advisors, but the first point person who was who? Yeah. Teacher advisor. They're very well versed in helping. I'm always in my office in the guidance department. So just know if there's any confusion, please have your student come to us and we can help them. So now we've got Ms. Laguna who's going to be talking to you about support.
Everybody, just a friendly reminder, we're going to actually hold questions until the end, and we'll definitely have time for those as well. So let's talk a little bit about the ways you guys can support your students during the college application process. They have received a lot of information just as you are this tonight, and make sure that you are also informed, such as the Viking Guide. The Viking Guide was given to your students last year in January during junior orientation. So you can find it also on paly.net in case they lost that with all the stuff that they're carrying in their backpacks. Also, the college application summary is a document that was shared with them by their TA through Schoology about 2 weeks ago. It basically just condenses the Viking Guide into a more brief document to be able to follow the application process. Also, Naviance. Make sure that they go over the information that is on Naviance, that their email is correct. They'll be receiving a lot of information from the College and Career Center about upcoming workshops, important information, deadlines, especially the Paly deadlines. Those are very, very important to keep in mind. The Paly link is another great resource. It's actually hosted by our PTSA. If you want to know what's going on every week, they kind of summarize it at the top and then have a brief description at the bottom. That has also all of our workshops, if you just want to receive it once a week, just to be reminded of the events that we are hosting. You can also join the Class of 2017 Facebook page. Our college advisors are really trying to update it as often as they can. Sometimes even posting articles that would be really helpful to discuss with your students. Okay, so the application and financial aid, make sure that they are organized, that they have somewhere, some type of chart that can They can place deadlines not only about their application, but financial aid and anything related to their application, such as EOPS, if they're interested in programs as those. You can find more information on the Paly.net website right there. Their materials, make sure that they have access. They're going to have to be ordering their test scores. They're paying for their applications. Make sure that they have that all lined up as well. Now, if you need help with financial aid application, that will be coming later in advisory, and there will be a presentation coming up as well in the evening, just to kind of go over more on what that looks like and what will be required. So make sure also that the students are reviewing their application before they're submitting it, proofreading it, making sure that their names are correct, that the social security number that they have placed is correct as well, because the financial aid will be linked to that social security number so that they have all the information correct. Also, make sure that they also stay on track with schoolwork. I know it's a very stressful time. They have so much on their plate, but senior grades do count, and we want to make sure that they stay on track for eligibility. Appropriate email address as well. We try to remind our students that we actually remind them starting freshman year how important it is to have a good email address, usually with their name, so it's easy for the colleges to be able to link that email address to their application. If they're contacting the school, that they can easily see who is contacting them. Use a legal name on all college applications. They do not want to see nicknames. They want to make sure that everything is linked to the right person. Be sensitive to student behavior and choices during this stressful time. Sometimes the students are feeling overwhelmed. They feel like the topic of discussion every time is maybe college applications. Perhaps you want to, save some time at some point of the week. Almost say, this is the day we're going to talk about what your progress is, so that they're not feeling so overwhelmed where they're, working on applications, they're talking about it. They don't want to feel like this is everything has to do with college applications. So just kind of keeping that in mind on how stressful it can be. Okay, so now we have Stephanie Mendoza, one of our college advisors.
Hello everyone, just a reminder again that I work with the students whose last name starts with the letter L through Z, so I get the second half of the alpha sort. And I'll be talking a little bit about what our role in the College and Career Center is as college advisors. We do meet with students and helping them navigate through the college application process. We help them review their college list and help them stay organized and navigate them through their college application. So whatever questions they may have, we do have drop-in hours during brunch or lunch, after school, or they can also access us through email. We also collaborate with the case managers. We want to help our students, and so we collaborate with them. And I did want to mention, if the student feels like the case manager knows them better than the teacher advisor, the student can ask the case manager to write a letter of recommendation, which would be the counselor letter of recommendation. So we do suggest to students that they talk with this case manager and ask them if that would be okay with them before inviting them to the Common App as a counselor letter recommendation. We also provide with resources for our students that can be both found online and in our College and Career Center. And we also support with the essay review, so we do ask if students want for us to review the essays that they send their essays with the prompt in advance prior to meeting with us. That way we have comments ready in the time of the meeting. And if we help the students, we ask questions to help them reflect and assess and make choices related to their interests and their post-high school plans. So, how is the college application evaluated? There are multiple factors that come into play. The first three are the course requirements, course selection and GPA, and the SAT or ACT test scores. This satisfies the eligibility requirements. And I did want to mention that there is a difference between meeting minimum eligibility requirements and being a competitive applicant for the selected colleges. So there are a few colleges that publish the minimum requirements, such as the University of California, all the UC systems. For example, they have a minimum requirement of a 3.0, but in order to be competitive, then their GPA, their course rigor, and test scores should also would be above the average to be competitive. They also take into account the extracurricular activities, personal essays, the letter recommendations from the teachers, and sometimes also the teacher advisors, and also the interviews. So there are some schools that require or recommend interviews, and we do suggest to the students that they look up on the college's website to make sure if that's one of their requirements or not. If the college does recommends a college interview, this is a good way for the student to show demonstrative interest in making sure that the colleges know that they are truly interested in this school and that they would be a good fit for this institution. Another thing that I wanted to mention about private schools is that they do look at this applicant holistically. So it's not a formulaic approach, kind of like the CSUs. They do make the decisions based on their institutional goals, which we're not privy to. So we did want to say that their admissions is unpredictable, but they're unpredictable but not random because they have institutional goals that they're seeking for each year, which may change. And last thing, Ms. Laguna did touch base on having your names to be similar to your birth certificate, and I do want to stress this, that the student's application has the same name on the birth certificate, on the financial aid application, on the test scores, on everything that they're going to be submitting to the college. So if the student has a middle name, then making sure that that student's middle name is on the transcript application, financial aid forms, etc. Now on to the teacher advisor versus the teacher letter recommendations. So these two letters are different in the sense that the TA will be writing about the student in a more broad overview. So talking a little bit about the academics, but that would be more for the teachers. Extracurricular activities, athletic, community service, and the students have the opportunity to mention all of these activities through the TA survey that they filled out either last year in the spring or they're filling out this senior year. So the teacher advisors have all this context to be able to write a good letter recommendation for the student. And it also provides context for the colleges, whether that be if the student mentions any outside challenges that the TA can write, any illness that they had, any schedule conflicts. So we do ask that there is a detailed TA survey to be filled out. That way the TAs have the most information. And there's also short forms that can be given from the coaches to be provided to the TA letters that they can also shine light and anything else that the TAs may not have seen. For the teacher letter recommendation, this is more of what the student is like in the classroom. So writing about their performance, their skills, their abilities in the classroom solely. And private schools do ask typically for 2 letter recommendations from core class teachers. And depending on some programs, if you're applying to art school, then there may be an art teacher requirement as well. Now, to selecting the colleges, we do want the students to look at schools that fit academically, socially, and financially, because they will be there for 4 years. We want them to be happy there, which is why we stress for the students to research the universities, whether that's visiting them when they come to the College and Career Center, when they come to the college fair to learn more about the schools, or just doing research online. And then lastly, to develop a balanced college list, meaning that they build the college list with a solid foundation, making sure that they have a lot of likely schools as opposed to a lot of reach schools and some safety schools. We do want the colleges that are on their list to be ideally all first choice, meaning that they would attend if they get accepted to any of those schools. And to apply broadly, evenly with the UCs as well. So not only the UCLA, UC Berkeley, but just overall just applying broadly in general. And then some tips would be to look at the national average and the Paly stats that we have. So the Paly stats would be in Naviance if you add them to the colleges that the student will be thinking about. And then one last thing that I wanted to mention, that increasing the number of highly selective colleges does not increase the likelihood of admission. So, which is why we stress enough that the student should have a balanced college list within acceptance rates as well. With that being said, I will now introduce Ms. Chinabori.
I wanted to mention on the previous slide when it says developing a college list that it was a handout, and I'm sorry, it's not a handout, we removed it. That document, how to build a college list, is in the Viking Guide. So if you can't find your student's Viking Guide, the printed copy, remember that it's online on paly.net/college. But this is also information that we review with your student during the meeting where we talk about kind of how many colleges to apply to, that there needs to be a range of selectivity, and so on. So there isn't a handout, but that information is definitely online on paly.net/college in the Viking Guide. We don't have this on a slide, but I'm going to say it anyway. In general, we recommend that students apply anywhere from 8 to 10 colleges. That's a lot, and yet, sadly, there are students who apply to more. I would really caution you from encouraging your student to apply to many more. It takes a lot of time and money to do so. I guess I should also further clarify that of that list, we consider the CSUs and UCs really one out of that number of 8 to 10 because their application is very streamlined. It's a matter of checking boxes and paying fees per campus, but the application itself is pretty straightforward. So I don't think that everyone's applying to 20 colleges because that's not the truth. In fact, every year I have students who apply to maybe 4. And that's not unheard of. If students really do a thorough job of doing their research and have a range of colleges that meet their needs and goals with a range of selectivity, you don't have to go crazy and apply to a lot of colleges. Furthermore, with regards to college application lists, we often recommend that students on their college list, if they have a school that their admission looks likely, meaning their GPA and SAT or ACT scores are a little bit stronger than the average admitted student, and the university or college admits 50% or more of the students who apply, that their admission to that college looks likely. Granted, most colleges are looking beyond just numbers unless we're talking about something like a CSU, right? They'll look at letters, essays, and so on. But we need some way to gauge selectivity. So let's assume your student is stronger than the middle 50% in terms of GPA and test scores, and the college admits 50% or more of the students who apply. Their admission there looks pretty likely. There are always caveats with regard to major, but I'm making a generalization. Okay, so it looks likely. If that college offers an early action program, your student might want to take advantage of that opportunity. Early action, and that's my slide here, is the non-binding early application process. Typically, students apply by November 1st, and we'll hear back from the college before January. If it's a college to which your student looks likely to be admitted, the nice bit about applying early action is that it builds momentum in the college application process. Students complete one complete application, and typically they get positive news back early in the process, which takes the pressure off and makes it a lot easier to wait until April and hear from all of the other colleges. So to just kind of finish out what early action is, this is a way, indeed, for students to signal kind of that they're interested in the college because they're applying early. Because I mentioned in this example that it's a likely school, the student's application is going to be pretty strong even without consideration of first semester grades. Because remember, in early applications, typically the application is due November 1, which means there are no first semester grades yet. So, if that's the case with your students, their testing is completed, they don't need to take the SAT or ACT again, this might be considered. The nice thing about early action is because it's non-binding, they pursue all of their other applications and can wait to hear from all of their colleges before deciding where to go. So if they get a positive result and are admitted in December, they still can wait to hear from their other schools before deciding where they will matriculate. Early decision is the binding commitment. And it has a little bit more teeth. There is a contract that the student signs, the parent signs, and the teacher advisor signs electronically in the college application process. You are signaling to the college that this is your first choice, so much that if they admit you early, you will go. You will withdraw what other applications you have pending. It's a done deal. So as you imagine, this is pretty serious consideration. So what should you think about? The students, it really needs to be their first choice. That doesn't mean they've fallen in love with just one college. It means they've done thorough research, they have an entire college list vetted, but there's one school that kind of rises to the top. So they've done thorough research. Their application is strong. As I mentioned with early action, they're not going to see first semester grades or see any test scores taken in December. So the application needs to be strong enough, competitive enough at the end of junior year. The other thing is they need to have visited the campus. This is a huge commitment, not one that we recommend making sight unseen. And in fact, colleges are going to wonder why you're applying early decision if you've never visited the college. They are unlikely to take you as seriously. Because let's face it, you're not 24/7 in a classroom. Part of the college experience is what happens outside the classroom in the surrounding area, on campus, and so on. So visiting a college that you're considering applying to early decision is important. Finally, there's a financial consideration. If a student applies early decision and they would like to apply for need-based aid, absolutely available. There's simply an earlier deadline for the financial aid documentation. The colleges will package the best financial aid that they can give you. They will not short shrift you because you're applying early. That's always a rumor, not true. The downside is that when you get an offer of admission and a financial aid award in December, you won't have the ability to compare it against other financial aid awards for colleges whose applications either you haven't completed yet or whose financial aid awards don't come out until much, much later. So for students who have significant financial need, this is not always the best strategy. I know that indeed it's true at some colleges applying early decision because it is this binding commitment. It might indeed provide a bump, an edge. The college might be more willing to admit the student because they're locking them in, right? It's a binding commitment. But that doesn't mean it's the right decision for everyone. That also doesn't mean that every student should be applying early decision. It's a very individual discussion, one that you should really seriously think about. And the other thing that I want to mention is at some schools, applying early decision can help. You can find these statistics online. For example, on the College Board's Big Future site, you can drill down and find some of those statistics. Most, not all, colleges are transparent about sharing that data. But there are some colleges that it really doesn't make that much of a difference at all. So with everything in college admission, it depends, and you really need to do your research. And the last thing I want to say about early applications is that, well, two things, sorry. Early decision sometimes admits more students. You have to remember that recruited athletes and students who have legacy are encouraged to apply early decision as well. So it might look like a college takes, they take like 4 or 5% more. Well, you gotta remember part of that is the self-selection of the coaches. And if someone wants to use the legacy card, a way to kind of lock that in at some colleges is to apply early decision. So sometimes that number is inflated. Finally, there are some early programs, application programs that are hybrids between these two. Like there's a program called Restricted Early Action at Stanford and several other places. And it's very important to read the terms of that agreement. Stanford in particular says you can't apply anywhere else officially early, but you're welcome to apply to public schools like the UCs. So it's very important to read the commitment that the student's making if they're applying early. Okay. Financial aid and scholarships. So there are actually 2 financial aid presentations coming up. First of all, teacher advisors covered what I just talked about, applying early, consideration of finances, all that. They've covered it in advisory. More information about financial aid will be coming to seniors again closer to October when the FAFSA opens, the free application for federal student aid. This is for applying for need-based aid. So they'll hear more detailed information in October. And then we have these 2 presentations for your students, and you're welcome to attend. So at the college fair on October 9th, there's a financial aid presentation from 7:30 to 8:30, and it's more general, like what is financial aid, what's the difference between need-based aid and gift aid or merit aid, what are some of the terms used. Then on October 17th, it's more focused on the actual application, the FAFSA, and what some private schools also need called the CSS profile or the profile or other additional financial aid forms. There's of course an overview of financial aid and scholarships on Paly.net if you'd like to kind of review that first. So there is a difference between need-based aid and merit aid or gift aid. Students who want to apply for need-based aid includes free money from the federal government if they're eligible, free money from the state government if they're eligible. And eligibility, it depends on many factors including size of family, number of dependents, how old the parents are, how many kids are in college. It's kind of complex, but so free aid from the feds, free aid from the state. And then it might also include a grant from the institution. It also would include student loans, parent loans, in general. And all of those things are packaged into the financial aid package. You don't have to accept everything that is awarded in the package. You can accept some things and deny others. But if your student or you are thinking at all about taking out a loan, you must file for need-based aid and file the FAFSA. The FAFSA opens October 1st. Deadlines depends on the college, so you'll need to look it up. For California State, CSU, and University of California, UC, the deadline is March 2nd. But private colleges often have earlier deadlines. They often have other forms, as I mentioned, in addition to the FAFSA. And if you're applying early action or early decision, often financial aid forms are due much sooner as well. Merit aid, we often think of scholarships as kind of being this gift aid or merit aid, and that can come from private institutions, but it can also come from the colleges. So please know that colleges have a pot of money of institutional need-based aid, and some, not all, have a pot of money for institutional gift aid or merit aid. That might be based on a student's academics or some other factor. It could be athletics, it might have to do with ethnicity, a special talent, and so on. So scholarships can come from the university or private entities. And we have a whole list of scholarship resources on Paly.net. I often encourage students to definitely look on the college websites to see what scholarships they might apply for from their college list. And then look in Naviance. Under the scholarship list, I have parent volunteers who update that list once a week. And there's kind of a cycle. At the beginning of the school year, there tend to be a lot of college-sponsored scholarships. As we get more to January, they tend to be community-based or regional, and so they need to get in the habit of checking those pretty regularly. There are other search engines as well, and they're listed on this website here in the scholarship resources. Finally, there are a couple of colleges that if you want to be considered for merit aid, so not need-based, they actually require the student to file the FAFSA first. I know that doesn't make sense. Here's the thinking. They want students to apply for need-based aid to rule out that they're not eligible for need-based aid before they consider awarding them gift aid. So there are two piles of money. And they want to rule out need-based before they'll consider you for merit-based. Am I making sense? Okay, cool. The two schools that I know of that do this are Wake Forest University and Carnegie Mellon. That's not to say there aren't others. It's just those are the two that I happen to know of at the moment. So, very important, even if you're not thinking about applying for need-based aid, but your student wants to be considered for merit aid, go on that website, read the directions. Super important. Okay, we talked about early action, early decision, and restrictive early action. You should know that some colleges, separate from those early application programs, will require an application to be submitted earlier under these conditions for scholarship consideration. For example, USC, University of Southern California, says you don't have to fill out an extra application to be considered for merit aid, but we need your whole application due December 1st instead of January 1st. Sometimes if students are applying to art schools that have portfolios, there's an earlier deadline, maybe at the art department, than the overall university. And of course, for recruited athletes, that's often the case as well. So again, finding out what path your student is going to take and then looking up the relevant deadlines is very important. I think I mentioned this before, if you're applying early decision, there might be some preliminary forms to fill out. Yeah. So I know that Crystal Laguna and Stephanie Mendoza touched a little bit on the parental role of supporting students through this process, and I get that it's a lot of information for students. Luckily, they get it multiple times in multiple ways. Many of you are getting it all for the first time, and I get that it's overwhelming. And sometimes it's overwhelming for students too. I think the best way to help them is to help them with organization. Everything happens once you have a list. At that point, you look up all the requirements and all the deadlines and plot them on a calendar and then prioritize your effort. But students can get overwhelmed. And that's why I sent in my last email a link to the tracking chart. Sometimes with students who don't have support at home, I sit with them at the computer and we look up all these dates and deadlines together. They feel much more in control once they know what's the list, what do I need to do, and by when do I need to do it. So helping them with that organization piece is great. But I have to be honest, you play a very big role in how they handle this whole process. How they feel about their application list, how they feel about their application news. They look to you for signals. I have had many conversations with students who've said, yeah, my parents making me apply there. I don't really want to go. I wonder how much effort they're putting in compared to an application that they could really, for a school they really want to go to, and what's being sacrificed. Or, you know, a college advisor is they look at the list and say, we don't have any likely schools. I've got some targets, some reaches, but there's not a likely in the bunch. Let's look at a couple of likelies, and we make some suggestions. And the students are like, oh, okay, I guess I'll look them up, only to come back and say, yeah, my parents didn't like those schools. We want to work with you, but please know they hear those messages loud and clear. The more information we have from students about their feedback, about what they like and what they don't, we can help tailor our suggestions. And that's why after our first appointment with students, you're welcome to come to subsequent appointments. But they really are looking to you. You know, I want you to keep in mind that one person's dream school is someone else's likely school. When this student hears that the student who got into the likely school is like, yeah, well, I don't really care, I don't want to go there anyway, how does it make the kid whose dream school it is feel? They take this all in. They are such sponges. They are so worried about being judged. And part of this application process is putting yourself out there and being evaluated. So there are college options for everyone. Everyone's college list is very individual. I would go so far as to say it's nobody else's business outside of your family. I know there's a lot of chit-chat. You're at Safeway. Oh, where is so-and-so visiting? Where are they applying? I know you all mean well because you're stressed and it's the topic at hand. What this does to your student, for it to be the topic of conversation constantly, is not good. It's just not. Thanksgiving dinner, oh, dreadful. Visitors from out of town, that's all they want to do is ask you where you're applying, and they all have an opinion, even if it's based on nothing. I really encourage you to keep this a private conversation. Be vague. Where is so-and-so applying? Oh, we're looking at some schools on the East Coast. It's nobody else's business to evaluate and judge, even if they're well-meaning. I have to be honest with you. I feel it constantly. What else can you do? Demonstrate your confidence in your students' abilities. Work with them to get organized, help proofread, but put them in control. They'll be invested in the application process and feel so proud of their accomplishments. Whether they're admitted or not, they get to own having done the process and putting their best foot forward. Trust them. Show them that you believe in them, that they can do this and they're ready to go to college. You should certainly discuss any expectations or limitations, especially when it comes to money. I will never forget my first year working here, when a student was admitted to an Ivy, but came back and told me, my mom said that one's not good enough, I have to go to a UC. Have to? We should be so lucky to be admitted to a UC, no less an Ivy. But the point is, there was an expectation in that family that this school was not as good as a UC. If you have those kinds of expectations, set them up front so students know what to expect. Money being a big one, right? If you say, we're going to apply to some private colleges. Private colleges have merit aid often. And in order to leverage merit aid, we're going to apply to some private colleges. But if they don't offer enough money to make it affordable, that might mean that you need to choose something in-state. Say it up front. It's helpful for them to know what to expect. Social media. My colleagues have talked a lot about the email address and having names match, which is very important. But students, and we mentioned this in our orientation in January, need to be very careful about what they're putting out there on social media. They forget sometimes about the digital footprint they leave behind even when they try to delete or clean things up. Applying to college is their first kind of professional task, right? They're using a professional email, that's how they're communicating with colleges and submitting their application. That's how they'll find out when colleges have missing materials or would like more information. And they need to be really aware of what they put out there to the public. I'm sure you've read the articles recently about students being rescinded. Colleges don't like to rescind students. Usually if they do, it has to do with a pretty significant academic dip. But to misrepresent a college, to bash a college in social media, they have no problem rescinding on that grounds. So students really need to be aware. A couple of last reminders. Sometimes throughout the semester, students change their schedule, maybe they drop a class. Any changes that are made to a student's schedule after they submit an application must be reported to each and every college they apply to. And I'll echo what I think it was Mr. Taylor said, senior grade, or Ms. Laguna, senior grades are important. If students are applying regular decision, In addition to getting one transcript that has through junior year, often private schools will also ask for a first semester senior year transcript as well. And every offer of admission, public or private, is conditional. When the offer comes in, it'll let you know what the conditions are. It's usually something to the effect of that students maintain an academic profile similar to that they presented in their application. But some colleges are much more specific. So senior year grades definitely help and matter. Finally, two things. Quarter grades. Students who are applying early action or early decision sometimes are so excited about how well they're doing senior year that they want to send their quarter grades to colleges. And I get it. But we follow directions. We don't send something unless the college wants it. Students can always self-report their first quarter grades in their college application for early, go back in their app later and edit them out. But we only will send quarter grades for colleges specifically requiring or requesting them. In order to get quarter grades sent, students need to either print out the email they received or print out what it says on the website and bring that with a stamped addressed envelope to our registrar, who will prepare individual quarter grades. And then at the end of this process, please be sure that your students thank all the people who supported them. Your students' teachers and teacher advisors spend lots and lots of time. They're professionals. They take this job incredibly seriously, want to put your student in the best light possible. I can tell you I have lots of conversations with TAs. They really demonstrate that loud and clear. A simple thank you goes a long way. A little advice. If your student is a recruited athlete, if you want more information about collegiate athletics, we've got some resources here. If your student is considering Division I or Division II sports, excuse me, they will likely need to register with either the NCAA or the NAIA so that those organizations and the compliance officers at the colleges can verify eligibility. But even at D3 colleges, coaches want a winning team, and they're going to recruit your students. They will have conversations with the admissions office. Sometimes they can have some influence, but not always. And even students who have been given the special pink envelope from Stanford to indicate that they are turning in their application early as a recruited Division I student have found themselves with nothing. Because the coaches make a recommendation, admissions makes the decision. So they need a full list. I don't want to say they applied to just this one college. You gotta have a backup plan. Encourage your student to meet with their college advisor to make sure there's a plan in place. A word about independent college counselors, advisors, whatever you want to call them. I understand that some of you want and have the means to pay for additional help. Be sure that these individuals are aware of Paly processes and deadlines. I hear a lot of misinformation. I do not work directly with independent counselors, so I cannot recommend or condemn anybody. I would say I hope that you choose someone who works with some of the accrediting organizations. But beyond that, be sure they're very much aware of Paly processes and deadlines. Just last week, a student came in and said, I would like a hard copy of my transcript so I can deliver it to my colleges. Nope. It's not an official transcript if it goes to someone other than directly to the college. It's why either teacher advisors upload them to the Common App or students order them on parchment. When pressed, this student said, well, my college advisor outside of school really wants me to get it there on time. The quickest way things will get to where they need to go is by following the process. Okay. The other thing I want to mention about independent counselors is please know that if the colleges your students apply to, if the admissions officers have questions about the application, they're not calling the independent college counselor. They're calling someone at Paly, the teacher advisor, the guidance counselor, or often one of the college advisors. So even if your student is using an independent college advisor, we highly recommend they still meet with us. And come October, we will track down those students who've never met with us and call them in ourselves. But you might want to get them in before then, right? As opposed to me hunting them down. So we would just want to be sure everybody knows what they're supposed to do for their individual post-high school plan. Okay, some upcoming events. I'm not going to read these to you. You can see them here. They were in the email I sent to you guys last week. And then, in lieu of handouts, we decided this time to put some URLs so that when we post this online, people can access these documents directly. There are some updates from the UC, and then some other articles of interest. And finally, I want to thank you for coming. I want to encourage you, if you have any feedback for us, you can email it to us here at this website. We're going to take questions in just a minute. I would remind you that your students are in good hands. We'll get through this together. And that this presentation, and apparently the recording of it, will be uploaded to paly.net tomorrow or the day after. Thank you very much. Those of you who are staying for questions, if those of you in the back want to move up closer, it might be easier for me to hear you if you have a question.
Yeah, keep going. Q&A.
Okay, while we're getting settled here, I'm putting Sensei Hall on the spot. Do any of you have questions for Mr. Hall?
Any questions? Here we go. First one. Oh, you're talking about the Japanese language proficiency test? Deadline for the application for that is September 29th. The test itself is always the first Sunday of December. I'll be training them during October and November of this year with Teruko Sensei. That has nothing to do with freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors, but there you go. Yes, sir. Why does it say baccalaureate and not graduation? My understanding, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, the tradition of baccalaureate is collegiate, and it was originally grounded in religion, in holding a religious ceremony to bless the graduating students. I went to the University of Notre Dame, go Irish. So it was a ceremony, it was a service. We're blessed, right? And then now high schools have kind of adopted that, now it's a quasi-collegiate tradition at the high school level. And it's two different ceremonies, completely two different. Graduation is literally the function of the state. You get that empty diploma cover, names are read, so on and so forth. The district personnel receives the graduating class of 2018 this time. Baccalaureate, on the other hand, is merely a performance, a celebration. Choir performs, senior choir members, we have tryouts, auditions for other groups that want to perform. For example, 3 of my senior juggling club dudes performed last year and got a standing ovation from 2,331 people attending in the Flint Center. It's awesome. Anybody can try out. And there's usually an inspirational figure. My senior class president, Noga Hurwitz, and her capable vice president, Michaela Fogarty, have already identified 3 speakers. They gave me the list today, and I was like, these are awesome. Go get one of them. So we'll have a graduation. Last year was Aimee Archibald from Facebook. So that's graduation, that's baccalaureate. Prom? Any prom? Oh, question over there? We'll go here first, then we'll go that way.
So, to get the transcript for the students, you don't need to use parchment if you're using Common App?
I will get, hang on one sec, we'll let Sensei finish and then I'll get there.
Go ahead. Outstanding question. Let's do that 2 ways, baccalaureate and graduation. The Flint Center holds 2,331 people. Of course, we have anywhere between 75 to 82% in the last 6 years of my tenure attending. right? So that's 400 plus students. We set aside 400 seats for them. Now we're at 1,800 or so seats, right? We usually say, okay, if each one of those seniors has 4 people come, that's it. We're pretty much full now, full capacity. What we find is that in the past several years, that's not how it works. It's not even 4, right? Some people ask for 2, some people need 20. But in my last 6 years, we've averaged requests up to 8. And if you ask for, basically there's a digital form that I'll give to all of you. You say, here's my student's name. I'd like 4, my guaranteed 4. And then there's another little thing you say, plus 2 more. And we do those numbers, we run the algorithm, boom, boom, boom. Google Forms, it's really fun. And then pretty much up to 8 I've been able to give every year. And then occasionally if somebody hands back tickets, then we give them to the other people who maybe didn't get any, or on the waiting list, or their kid didn't want to go and now they're going to baccalaureate. We try to at least make sure that we have enough for a majority of the class, 80 to 90% of the class. If they go and they bring 3 or 4 guests, we can do that. That's baccalaureate. You have to request them. They're free tickets, mind you, but you have to request them digitally. For graduation, there's no form, there's no request. Every senior gets 10 tickets, and they receive those tickets at graduation rehearsal, which is how we guarantee their presence. So graduation rehearsal, this year we're probably going to do it Wednesday instead of instead of Tuesday. Graduation rehearsal in the morning, 8 to 10, Wednesday. Then senior picnic. But before they go to senior picnic, all the counselors line up, A through Z table, come and get your tickets. And we just hand them envelopes, 10 tickets. 10 individual tickets. It used to be like 2 people per ticket. We found that was lame, so now it's 1 individual ticket so you can spread them out to the family. If you need 11, start talking to other people. We do not play that distribution game. And what we found every year is that families work it out. Hey, I only need 6, who needs 4? Boom, people just chumming the waters. It's just, right? And the students do it themselves too. The students online, I'm the only adult in the Facebook groups. So the kids are like, hey man, I need 4. And then somebody goes, oh, I got it right here. It's easy. Does that help? Wonderful. Any more questions? Yes? No dumb questions. Precisely. We already have 500 seats up front. That extra 10 is for the 5,000 seats we have that the custodians, God bless them, lay out the day before. So yeah. Question, please.
I'm just curious about graduation gowns. I know it's changed in 3 years. So what color are graduation gowns?
For the past 2 years it has been green, and as far as I know, from all the powers of be that I have talked to, from district on down, it's going to be green. The girls were white 2 years ago, 3 years ago, pardon me. 2 years ago it turned to all green. Last year it was all green. As far as I know, this year it's going to be all green. Jostens, we've already notified them, prepare the green. Now, I know there are some students, even one of my ASB officers is like, I want to lead the charge and get white back. That hasn't gone anywhere, and I don't, just my own political mind says it's probably not going to happen. I don't think they got the votes for it. So, assume green. Assume green at this point. So start buying the dresses that fit green. That kind of thing, because that's the girls' main argument. Is that my dress doesn't look good with green. Okay, well, there you go. Anything else? All right.
Thank you. All right, this gentleman over here had a question about transcripts. Will you repeat your question? Where was it? Somewhere over here.
So my question was, you need to sign up for parchment and get the transcript.
Yeah, keep it up there. Yeah, keep it. You might need to move this one a little bit.
It depends on the college. No transcripts for CSU. No transcripts for UC. No transcripts for the Common App because the teacher advisor uploads them. Non-Common App colleges that require a transcript get ordered on parchment. Some non-Common App colleges don't want a transcript either. Students need to look it up online.
Follow-up question. With the teacher advisor uploading for Common App, does that automatically happen or do you request it, or how do you know that?
Teacher advisors, so students in their Common App account will invite their teacher advisor as their counselor. Please don't invite Mr. Taylor, or me, or Stephanie, or Crystal. They are inviting their teacher advisor as their counselor. Once they've done that, their name appears in a dashboard that the teacher advisor sees, and excuse me, the teacher advisor uploads a transcript with a school profile and grading key, uploads what's called the school report, and a letter of recommendation. So as long as the student invites them, by the Paly deadline, it will get done on time. The Paly deadline, if you look at the Viking Guide or the college application summary, both of which are online, the Paly deadline is about 4 to 6 weeks prior to the college application deadline. Students' applications always do when the colleges tell them they're due. But this administrative task of inviting teacher advisors, or inviting and assigning teacher recommenders, or ordering a transcript, or ordering SAT or ACT scores, those have earlier deadlines. In the back, yeah.
So, here's one set of questions. If you're doing a Common App and have several schools, but they have different deadlines, do you need to ask or invite the teacher advisor for each one of the schools?
You invite, the students invite the teacher advisor once, period, by the earliest deadline they have. I should say, by the earliest Paly deadline they have. For the teacher advisor, it's one and done in the Common App. For teacher letters, they invite them once, they assign them per college. So they invite once, but for teachers, there's another step, they press a button that says assign. I sent out slides last week. They detail this with screenshots. Okay, over here.
What would keep a child or student from just today? I mean, why would you want to wait?
Some students are not sure about their college list yet. Everyone is in this post-high school planning process at a different stage. Some students have a list. If they know, they can do it early. There's nothing to say they can't do it early. They just can't do it late. To do the inviting, no. To do the assigning, yes. To do the cover sheet, you can do it in pieces. Most students will figure out the list and do everything at the same time, but not everybody works that way, and that's okay, as long as they meet the Paly deadline for the particular college. No. So that's why there's a Paly deadline. Oh, the question was, what makes the teacher advisor know they have something they need to do in the Common App? That's why there's a Paly deadline. They invite the teacher advisor, or they invite and assign the teacher by the Paly deadline, which is 4 to 6 weeks prior to the college application. Once the student has invited and assigned, that student and their colleges appear in a list in the teacher advisor or teacher's dashboard in the Common App with a deadline.
Before you actually apply to whatever Common App school, there's a step where you can invite your PA anonymously. The question I have is, the student might still be working on their stuff.
The students should absolutely invite and assign way before they're finished with their application.
Right. But I'm saying, is it then when they apply to the school, that then the...
No. The minute they invite and assign, it appears in the teacher advisor or teacher's dashboard. No, until she invites and assigns. Because you assign per college. It has nothing to do with when the students hit send. It has to do when they invite and assign the teachers.
And that's both for the recommenders and the PA?
Correct.
So my assumption is there is the teacher writes the letter, and you assign means you just help the teacher to send it.
All you're doing is literally inviting them. This is my teacher's name, this is what they teach, this is their email address. And then I'm saying, oh, I'm applying to Evergreen College, assign, it's literally clicking a button. You guys, I'll be really honest, I'm kind of surprised with the detailed questions you're asking me. I'm not trying to scold you, but I'm being very genuine. I'm a little surprised, because you're not doing this. Your student is doing this. I'm just being very honest. They went over this in advisory, literally logged into the Common App together. And so I don't want to spend a lot of time on these details, only because I literally sent out screenshots that go slide by slide. I'm just, at the end, if we still have those questions, but I'm not sure that's the best use of our time today. And I'm not trying to scold you, I'm really not.
My question is not about how to use the apps. Some international universities give you the choice of either using their application or Common App. Which one should we choose? Does it make a difference to Paly? Which one administratively is?
The question is, if a college has multiple applications, maybe they have the Common App, the Coalition App, their own application, does it make a difference which application you use? The college does not care as long as you apply. But at Paly, your student's process will be easier if they use the Common App. There's less paperwork. Now, they're welcome to use any application they want, but remember, if they use the Common App, they don't have to order a transcript. Their teacher advisor does it automatically. You choose to use a different application, you're going to need to go to Parchment and order a transcript. So colleges don't care so long as you apply.
I can't hear you.
The University of California and the Cal State University systems do not require transcripts. In the application, the student will use his or her transcript and basically recreate it. That's what they want. They don't want to have to interpret a bunch of transcripts that look different from every high school, because they do look different at every high school. Instead, they put the work on the student. They say, you figure out your transcript and fill it out in the appropriate order. It's about saving time and money.
When it comes to early decision, would you recommend early decision for students with higher GPA or average GPA? Is there an advantage?
The advantage of early decision, when would you recommend it? Well, under the 4 conditions I mentioned previously. And then, if a student is maybe a little bit under the admitted profile, because it's a binding commitment, it might help. If they're within the profile or above it, and it is their first choice, that's a way to signal it's their first choice, that might influence the decision as well. Yeah. Case managers are for students who are in special education and have an individualized education program. Uh-huh. The question is about off-campus courses at community college and how and when they get put on Paly transcript. First of all, if your desire is to have the student put their grade on their Paly transcript, they needed to have gotten prior approval before taking the class. We don't give post-approval. So if they didn't get pre-approval, they're not putting it on their Paly transcript. Now this is not a big deal. In the college application, all of them, they say, have you taken any other classes at other high schools, other colleges? If so, where, what, how did you do? So there's a place for students to report this themselves in the college application. In some cases, instead of reporting that detailed, they will just answer yes or no, and then they will order a transcript from that institution. So assuming they went to Foothill, they might have to order from Foothill's website a transcript to be sent to a college. Am I making sense? If they got prior approval, they earned a grade, they turned in their transcript to the registrar adds it to our transcript, and when the student initially applies, they don't need to order it from Foothill. So it depends on the process. Have your student ask us, we're more than willing to walk them through it. Okay, this is an interesting point. So the student got prior approval, doesn't want to put it on their Paly transcript. Well, they don't have to, but they still have to report it to their colleges. Colleges ask, where else have you taken classes? Remember, students sign their name. Everything in this application is truthful. They must report all of the classes they've taken, even if it's not on their Paly transcript.
In the grade, yeah.
The question is about students who want to take a gap year and when they do the college application process. So, first of all, colleges really look favorably on students who take a gap year. Sometimes they need a break. They are maybe not mature enough to go away to college yet. They are okay with the idea of taking a gap year. However, if your student is looking at a public university, they usually do not accept deferrals, which means that your student would need to apply to that university while they're on their gap year. If your student wants to apply to UC Santa Barbara, you can't apply this year to go 2 years from now. They don't work that way. If your student takes a gap year next year, they apply when they're on the gap year for UC Santa Barbara. Private colleges, on the other hand, often will hold a student's spot. So students would apply during senior year, get admitted, choose which college they want to matriculate to, tell that college, yes, I would like to accept your offer, but please defer my enrollment for a year. And that's very commonly done.
So for the public college, so if you decide to apply next year, will you get some support from Paly with that?
Well, it depends what you mean. He said if he applies next year, will he get some support? Depends what you define as support. I only advise current students. I don't have the bandwidth to advise graduates. So if you're looking for advising, no. If you're looking for questions answered about what paperwork do I turn in, sure. Any student can order a transcript. Current student, graduate, same way on parchment if they need one. I'll be honest, with teacher advisor recommendations, it's a lot easier if they wrote it when the student was still at school as opposed to a year out, right? How much are they remembering? I don't know. We encourage students who are thinking about a gap year and are thinking of applying to private college to actually apply during senior year. Remember, the UCs won't take letters of rec, so in that instance, they're applying during the gap year and there's no letter of rec going. There's a question over here. Yeah. We don't archive, hold any documents from year to year. If the college application has a January deadline, is the transcript including first semester grades? Not originally. Remember, there's a Paly deadline. So let's say the college application